Speaking of grandparents, have you heard of this subject? I'm certain you have, actually. What's the phrase they use in the newspaper? Terminal lucidity.
Yeah.
Terminal lucidity,
Yeah.
which is you've got relatives who have dementia, they're declining, they don't know who you are, they don't know what end is up, and then right at the end, Nancy Reagan talked about this with Ronald Reagan. Right at the end, he opened his eyes, and he was totally with it, looked right at her.
Yes.
I had a touch of this. My beloved grandmother died a couple years ago, and she was really out of it. But when I was with her, she caught up.
Yeah.
Which I guess would be an argument that also for the intellect being distinct from the brain.
Yeah.
Dementia, you have plaque on the brain, but the intellect is a little different.
Yeah.
She did something else that was really weird as she was dying in the hospice. She kept reaching her arms up.
Yeah.
And at first I thought she was stretching because she's on a bed. But then I've heard other people do this too. What is that?
That is extremely common. I have a chapter in my book, Seeing the Supernatural, about what I call deathbed visions, which is basically what you're talking about. This is incredibly common. Researchers went to a huge hospice facility in New York State and told all the dying people there, would you please tell us if you have a vision, unlike anything you've ever had in your life? We would like to know. Because a lot of people won't talk about it because they're embarrassed for some reason. They're going to think, oh, I got dementia. Or they're going to think I'm on the medication's too strong, whatever it is. So they said, please tell us. 88% of them had a vision before they died of what's to come. And this is biblical. In the book of Acts, we see Stephen, who's described as being full of the Holy Spirit, who's about to be stoned to death. And he looks up and he sees the heavens open up and he sees the Father and the Son together. So it's biblical. But it is incredibly common. I was having a dinner with Steve Green, the head of the Museum of the Bible, and his some friends out in Oklahoma City. There were 7 of us having dinner. And we said, how many of you have a story from your family about a relative having this kind of pre-death vision? 4 out of the 7.
Yes.
It's extremely common. But here, I go back to corroboration. How do I know it's not just the product of their imagination or something?
Or the brain is breaking down.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Well, on one level, one team of researchers took 3,000 of these cases and analyzed them in depth. And their conclusion is these are not hallucinations. These are not something conjured up by a subconscious mind. These are not medically induced or medicine induced, drug induced. There's something else going on here. But here's where the corroboration hits me. We have numerous cases where people in this pre-death vision will see what's coming for them, eternity. They'll see someone there who they didn't know had died. For instance, there was a very well-documented case of a woman named Doris in London. She's dying. And she sees, just before she dies, she sees the heavens open up. She sees angelic beings. She sees her father, who had died several years earlier, and he's kind of almost welcoming her. And then she gets this puzzled look on her face, and she says, wait a minute. Why is Vida with my dad? Why would Vida be? That makes no sense. Why is Vida there? And then she died. Vida was her sister. She had died a couple of weeks earlier. Nobody had told Doris because she was ill and they didn't want the shock to kill her. So they withheld the news that her sister had died. And yet she saw her in heaven. That to me is a kind of corroboration.